Alrighty, today's second review is going to be of Argylle, which I gave an 8 out of 10 to. Now, I don't know if I said at any point in my other review today whether I put my rating of Nosferatu in there, so I'll just say it now in this video if you're watching this as well, that I gave it a 9 out of 10. I can't remember if I said that or not in the other video, so I'm just gonna say it here at the beginning of this one, just so you guys know my rating for both of those movies. But yeah, this one is an 8 out of 10. Just a good action comedy flick with a surprising cast, actually. Like one of those ones where it was just like oh my god, just a variety of people that I just wasn't expecting to see in a movie together, and it just worked. They just clicked. It just worked. Um, yeah, and I remember going to see this one in theaters too, because it was one of those ones that I was kind of like, this is interesting. Like, it looks like it's going to be a good action flick, but also at the same time, you're going to get some laughs out of it for sure. So we'll go over the cast list as we do. So again, some surprising names in this one that I wasn't expecting. But yeah, it definitely caught my eye when I saw who was in it, and totally different. Like, they fooled you in the trailer for sure into thinking that it was going to be like a super action movie, and then it ended up just being like an action comedy, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. I find that if the trailers are a little misleading, it just adds to the movie anyway, because you're not getting what you expected, or you're not getting, like a lot of the trailers I find now, like, all of the good parts are shown in the trailer, unfortunately, and sometimes you don't even have to go watch the movie to know what's going to happen, which is unfortunate, because I feel like that kind of deters people from going to see the movie. If you can make a trailer good and keep things hidden, I feel like that's a like a good thing, like a pretty important thing to do with a movie, right? So Henry Cavill, who played Argyle, Bryce Dallas Howard, who played Ellie Conway, Sam Rockwell, who played Aidan Wilde, and I feel like he's just one of those actors who can go from film to film and just play any type of character. He's a very, like, diverse actor. Like, he's not typecast, like some of them are. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, I feel like a lot of the older action stars are now going into like a little bit more of the, like, the drama side of things with their acting, and it's very hard to make that switch, I feel like. But some of them do it well and some of them don't, and then they just kind of go back to like their niche, right? And hey, there's nothing wrong with just being an action star. I mean, there's plenty of guys that have made a career off of it, so yeah, I feel like there's nothing wrong with, the whole just being known for one thing type of thing. If you're good at it, keep doing it, right? um Dua Lipa, who played Lagrange, uh arion Ariana DeBose, who played Kira, John Cena, who played Wyatt, Thomas Paredes, who played Carlos, Catherine O'Hara, who played Ruth, Bryan Cranston, who played Director Ritter, Stanley Morgan, who played Bakunin, Samuel L. Jackson, who played Elfie, and then Sophia Boutella, who played Saba al-Badar. So this was this was a wild ride of a movie for sure, because in the very beginning you're getting this Ellie Conway character who's writing a series of books, or she has been writing a series of books on this character Argyle, right? Fictional character Agent Argyle. And I guess in her fifth book, she's kind of having like what you could call like writer's block. Uh, so she just kind of like quickly writes out the ending, because all of her fans are obviously wanting the fifth book in the series, right? And they just kind of want it now after reading the fourth one. They're like, oh my god, like, you're doing such a great job, just release the fifth book, like, why are we waiting so long, sort of thing. And I feel like that could put a lot of pressure on somebody who's doing that sort of thing, because I feel like with writing, uh, you don't want to rush anything, right? Because then it doesn't really matter what you're doing with writing a movie, anything, right? You don't want to rush it, because then people are just going to stop watching it, because there's no like new story, or you're just kind of ending it on like a random ending, and then people are like, nah, well, really, that's how that ended. Am I really going to want to come back for a second or third, or in this case, a sixth book, if that's even a potential thing, right? So Ellie's mother, tries says that she wants to help her because she's read the book, and she's like, you can't end it that way. You can't do that to your fans, right? So Ellie tries to like rewrite it and can't come up with any ideas. So she ends up going to. She actually ends up going to see her mother, because I think originally the idea was that her mother was going to come to her, but she just decides to go to her mother instead. But then on the way there, when she's taking the train, she ends up running into this actual spy who says he deals in like espionage, and it says that he's like a huge fan of the books, right? So she runs into Aiden on the train. um, I guess Aiden tries to explain in his best way that what she's been writing was actually uncovering real things that were happening in real life. Um, and of course, that would be a crazy thing to hear, right? That what you are writing has actually uncovered this agency known as a division that has gone rogue, I guess, as Ellie predicted in her book. So, kind of crazy. Like, the stuff that she's um, writing in her book are predictions of what's actually happening in real life. And now this division, I guess, is after her, right? So this Carlos character that I guess was pretending to be like another super fan of hers actually works for the division, and now he's chasing her. And the division's leader is Director Ritter. So Aiden talks about hiring this hacker named Bakunin in order to steal the division's master file, which had like a whole bunch of information on it. That if it got leaked, right, would definitely end the division and probably a lot of other agencies, and bring a lot of people to the forefront of some pretty shady dealings, right? So Bakunin kind of almost says to him, like, it would almost be worth more for me to go to the division and tell them that I've got this, and kind of ransom them out of some money. And then Bakunin just kind of like disappears after that. So Aiden's been trying to track him down, and he thinks that Ellie is like the key. If she keeps writing, she'll kind of like solve the mystery as she goes, which actually ends up being the truth. So the more she begins to like uncover as she's writing her book, she ends up actually finding the location that Bakunin was trying to get them to track down that entire time, which was 25 Coburg Street, apartment 305. So she actually ends up solving that just from like writing down like the fictional part. She's able to just kind of slowly solve it as she goes. So it it's kind of making you wonder, like, who is she actually? Um, but yeah, they like, I guess if you haven't seen the movie before, you wouldn't know that, right? But um, or you wouldn't even be thinking, like, I wasn't even guessing that she was possibly a spy, even though she kind of jokes about it at the beginning. Um, yeah, you're kind of like thrown off the track right from the start, like thinking, okay, well, she's just this writer who has like a knack for mystery, right? So Ellie and Aiden end up finding Bakunin's logbook, which can lead them to the master file, obviously. Uh, and then uh, and then Ellie hears Aiden on the phone later that night, talking about like bringing her in or whatever. So of course she thinks that he's the bad guy now. So she runs away and then calls her mom. They fly out to England. Um, and she, of course, then she has to explain to them like everything that's been happening, and like all of the stuff that she's writing in her book has uncovered the secret agency that's been following her now. And of course her parents are like, this too shall pass, sort of thing, blah 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 blah. And then of course her father seems to be really interested in the logbook, right? So he's kind of looking at it, and you can tell that he's like really fascinated with this book. And then eventually Aiden catches up with her and tells her, these aren't your real parents. Um, and of course, then he has to kind of like convince her to come with him again, because at this point she's, thinking that he's the bad guy and her parents are going to help her. and that doesn't end up being the case. He just kind of shoots the mother right off the hop. I was like, oh my god, like this is not probably the best way to convince somebody that these aren't your parents, but hey, I guess to each his own. So Aiden takes Ellie to France after she has like this pretty much mental breakdown. Of course, I would too, right? Not really knowing what's going on and why I'm just all of a sudden stuck in the middle of this. So he takes her to France where she meets Elfie, who was Alfred Solomon, who was the former deputy director of the CIA. So he's like now she's kind of like, oh my god, like what am I into? Like how deep does this go, sort of thing. So eventually, Elfie just kind of comes out and says it, tells Ellie that the books she's been writing aren't fictional. Um, well, they're not fictional, obviously, and they're not exactly like being. Aiden didn't explain it the proper way because she kind of had to like get her own memories back in her own time frame, as Aiden explains shortly after this. But he tells her that they're actually her own memories, and that then he shows her her true identity, which is Agent Argylle. So again, Agent Argylle, which is the person she's writing about in the books, is actually herself, Rachel Kyle, which was just like the first time watching this, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I didn't pick up on that. The fact that she was writing about herself throughout the entire movie. It was just such a good twist that you didn't see coming if you've never seen the movie, that I was just like, oh my god, like what a shock. Um, so then, of course, Elfie and the division begin trying to decode Bakunin's message. And of course, Elfie seems to be the fastest one to it, obviously. So then Aiden begins to explain that Rachel was captured by the division. And then, of course, I guess she was brainwashed, obviously, into thinking that she was Ellie Conway, obviously by Ritter and I guess Ritter's wife, right? Like, so yeah, she was brainwashed by Ritter and Ruth, and being told that they were her parents, so on and so forth. So Elfie finds out the master file is with Saba al-Badar, which is, or better known as the Keeper. And of course, she has like all these secrets and so on and so forth. And obviously has to keep them. And of course, I guess everybody's been kind of tracking Rachel through all these years of her being Ellie Conway. And a lot of people were, believing that she was undercover or in deep cover. And some people actually believe that maybe she wasn't faking it at all. And I think kind of Al-Badar thinks that as well, right? And I guess, of course, El-Badar is also working with the division because, oh my god, it seems like who isn't in this movie? So we find out that obviously the master file can only be picked up by Rachel and Rachel alone. So again, Rachel and Aiden travel to the Arabian Peninsula to meet with Saba al-Badar, obviously. And then they run into Ruth there, and she tries to like make Rachel remember certain things. And Rachel was actually the one that ended up killing Bakunin in that same apartment that her and Aiden were in not too long ago, when they were writing the book and like trying to solve that whole issue. That ended up leading them to Saba al-Badar. So, of course, now she's kind of, I guess, she was kind of playing both sides the entire time, which is crazy. So she's like double agenting. She's a double agent and didn't even know it, I guess, until that core memory was unlocked again. So now she's working with the division all over again. So she's just flip-flopping back and forth. So Rachel then tells Ritter after they've kind of both been captured, I guess, in a sense, but Rachel obviously has the freedom because, of course, the division now thinks that she's on their side, right? So she's able to actually track down Elfie's location without any help from Aiden at all. And she actually shoots Aiden like through like a through and through shot. She explains it in the movie. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was some sort of something to do with like the valve in the heart and like just missing it. And if you stop the bleeding, you can keep the person alive. It's a crazy, crazy thing to do to one of your friends, especially someone you love. Because if you miss, it's not a big margin for error, right? So yeah. So Aiden and Rachel fight their way out of the division headquarters, and of course they don't really know where it is or where they are, obviously, and they end up being on this giant ship. So after sending all of his men to die, essentially, Ritter goes after Aiden and Rachel himself, and the cat is what. So the cat is what Elfie the cat is what attacks Ritter and ends up, I don't know, like ending his life, or at least putting him down for a long period of time. Anyway, so Ruth comes up with this, last ditch effort, I guess. After Rachel and Aiden begin sending the master file to Elfie. So Ruth uses some sort of code and like this music box in order to like activate Rachel back onto her side, and of course, obviously, she's trying to kill Aiden at the same time, right? But then Kira shows up at the very end of the movie. Somehow, she was the fan that wrote to Rachel / Ellie about writing the part about bringing Kira back in the 6th book with the shot through the shot close to the heart thing, right? Because I guess she actually lived it, so very interesting. And of course, it seems funny that the division never really tried to like alter her mind about Kira. I guess they didn't think they really needed to after she had died in the field. So yeah, but I feel like if you're trying to wipe somebody's memory and bring them to your side, you should probably wipe everything out, right? Not yeah, but I guess maybe because their master file had been stolen, they didn't want to erase everything. They just wanted to erase enough that she could, solve it again for them. I guess maybe that was their plan, but I think it kind of backfired on them because they were giving her enough of her memories that eventually she's gonna, come out of it, right? It's almost like a walking coma in a sense. So of course, uh, Rachel and Aiden have their big fight at the end, and then Kira comes and saves the day. And Elfie gets the master file, and obviously now he's going to take down a lot of people with that, right? And then they end up blowing up the ship that was essentially the division's headquarters. But then we get a little snippet of 20 years earlier with two men speaking in code at a bar, and we get this character, Aubrey Argylle, who was... So the bar said Kingsman on it, so I'm like, are we getting another Kingsman movie? But then it goes to like the cover of the book, and it says that movie for the first book is coming soon. Now, this movie's 2 years old, and I haven't heard anything more about it or another Kingsman movie, so I'm interested to see if they're ever going to write that script or whether that was just kind of like a little joke teaser at the end of the movie, but we'll see. I think it would be cool to have another Kingsman movie because we haven't had one in a while, but yeah, it just says movie for the book 1 is coming soon, so there's potential out there for a director to pick this up and make a exceptional movie out of the Argylle books and also tie it into the Kingsman universe, because 5 movies of that I would not be mad about at all. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for this movie, and 9 out of 10 for Nosferatu if I didn't say that in its review. And I guess I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye for now.